Shane Hensley's mouth full of hot dogs.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen. Nerds International proudly presents.
We want to take you on a quest for knowledge. One that will take us from ancient medieval fantasy across the far reaches of space to the distant future. To many savage worlds.
Welcome to episode 74 of the Wild Eye Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to Pinnacle Entertainment's Savage Worlds, aimed at beginners and veterans alike. Harrison, you're looking sweet today.
Thanks very much. I only got up 15 minutes ago. My hair is still done from last night, mostly.
Really?
Are you serious? You got up with your hair looking like that?
Yeah. Well, I had a lot of stuff in it
sexy,
before. Thanks, man. I've had people tell me before that I look like a goblin, so this is good to hear.
Yeah, but a damn sexy goblin.
How much
Goblin supermodel. Richard Wilcock, if you're listening, make that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How much?
All right, well, it's enough of this awkward stuff. What are we doing today, Eric?
We're going to do a review of one of the JumpStarts and then a bunch of questions from the mailbag. We got some feedback from episode 72 from John Steve. He says, Eric, you asked your partners in crime how to make Tulsa Doom more of a challenge. And of course, they failed you miserably. Yes, they did. I think you're right up for the character is very good, and to keep him in play, the GM would need to really play up the cult extras, especially his two big weaponed lieutenants. Keep Tulsa Doom running things in the background as long as possible. So at least someone with some good feedback.
I'm thinking that he's trying to pitch hit for one of our shows here. He's kissing a little ass to try and get on the show.
Maybe.
Yeah, John.
Well, I did announce that, I was looking for replacements for co-host number 1 and 2. 3 is safe, I think, for now.
He just got here.
I don't know. Who could we get that's sexy enough to replace Harrison? I mean, damn. Need that as part of the promo. Need that photo on the Patreon page or something. And where would we find another co-host with his microphone had bigger balls than Gary's?
Right.
So Tulsa Doom, was that from the movie? The one that you're making the character from?
Yes. Yeah.
It's actually a very good example, I think, of how to run a villain, because Tulsa never actually gets into combat at any point in the movie until he fires an arrow from a great distance. But other than that, he's always at the background like a good controlling villain would be.
Well, at the beginning, too, he kills Conan's mother, right?
Yeah,
with the sword.
But only after the whole village has been subdued and Conan and his mother are on their knees. Yeah.
Yep.
She deserved it. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Conan was a movie that every role-playing gamers had watched, sorry. But
the funny thing is I have watched it, but I've only watched it with the commentary on from Arnold Schwarzenegger, so I don't really remember the movie. I just remember his commentary, and it's really good. If you want to laugh, he just describes what's happening in the movie, because I think it was like really early on, and when DVD commentary was happening, and he's like, "Now we're running. Now I'm smashing this guy in the face."
I still need to watch that.
It's really good.
Yeah, look at the chain.
Yeah.
What do you call it? The
chainmail.
Chainmail. Yeah, exactly. What do you call those?
The demons.
The demons. Yeah, here's the making of the sword. This whole movie has to do with that. Here's the guy that buys me now. Then I break his arm.
Right.
Just the pounding him with the head and then breaking his head. Now I'm enjoying it already.
That's awesome. All right, how about a little bit of news?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the news. The news is incoming. Prepare yourself for the news. News! And some announcements about the Nerds International Network and the Wild Die podcast.
On the day that I launched my Kickstarter for Wiseguys, Pinnacle decided to steal my thunder by announcing some Savage Rifts goodness. Gary, what can you tell us about that? What's going on with Savage Rifts?
Not much. Carrying on. No, I was supposed to research this, wasn't I? But I actually never did. But I did, but I didn't. I'm just saying. If you're looking for some really good information, I want to do a shout out to the Voice of Hope podcast. There's an episode called Experts where he interviews the Birchers and Sean Robertson, and they'll fill you in detail about what some of these books are like. In fact, there's a spot where they read the back of the book so that you get like sort of an in-depth detail as to what's going on. I highly suggest you check that out. Not to steal from him, but we are getting 3 new books. We're getting Arcana and Mysticism, Blood and Banes, and Empires of the Humanity. So there's going to be a lot of new beasts. There's going to be some new playable races. Like I think you're going to be able to play a Catman and a Vampire Dude, which is going to be pretty sweet. And not to knock at any, but they're going to do a rewrite for the original Suede books, and you'll be able to get them in print, if you can believe it.
Okay, so they're gonna update the books that were already released, the Player's Guide and all that to Suede. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're getting free PDFs if you've already purchased the the original Rifts Kickstarter. So all of those books that came out with that are going to be rewritten, and then you'll be able to order probably prints. Maybe it'll come as one of the stretch levels, but yeah, you're going to get all new converted to Suede stuff. And with Rifts, man, there's so much stuff that they have to convert, because spells are completely different. You can already cast 3 spells inside of Rifts. Now you can do that in this. They did make a funny comment about how they had to spend an entire day taking charisma out of the entire books. The entire setting had to lose charisma. So yeah, that's going to pop out on, what day is that? The 16th, I believe, of April.
Kickstarter?
Yeah. Yes. I'm going all in.
Huge.
Are you gonna release Wiseguys at the same time?
Well, Wiseguys
steal it right back, Eric.
Right?
Yeah. No, Wiseguys going to be released in September.
Actually, why hasn't someone at Pinnacle woken up with a horse's head in their bed and a note just saying "wait"?
Maybe that would be a good idea for a stretch goal. If you hit like 12k on Wiseguys, you give a free horse's head, severed head with each book.
You've just written your next adventure, Eric. You got to send your crew out to take out the employees of Peg Inc. of a small RPG gang.
Yeah, because it's a front for something really illicit. I don't know. He's selling counterfeit antiques.
Counterfeit Munster cheese.
Yeah, he's passing cheddar off as Munster cheese.
It's made with rat milk, now with vitamin M or V or whatever it was.
Yeah. So watch out, Pinnacle. Eric's coming for you.
Nice. That took a sideways turn. Yeah, check out Rifts Kickstarter, April 16th. 3 new books. It's very exciting.
That is cool, though, because I only backed the PDFs for the first one, so I'll try and get the physical copies this time. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother.
So much hate.
Bad. So speaking of Wiseguys, well, it's going pretty well. If you've listened to episode 73, we launched basically the same day, funded in less than 4 hours, which is amazing, and we've blown through all the stretch goals. The next one would bring a source book on London, and we happen to have one of the possible authors of that book if we reach that stretch goal. So Harrison,
yeah, let me just go and get him. Come in. Hello, here I am. I'm that famous author of Aliens versus Rednecks. Good to meet you guys.
You forgot best.
Was this an interview?
Best game ever.
But anyway, no, for serious, I am very excited about that. I really hope we hit 11k. So send that around to all of your friends, because then we're going to have the London source book come out, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome, because we're writing it alongside Owen Lean, who's written loads of stuff for Pinnacle, and Nick Lamley, who wrote Whacked in the Wicket, and it's going to be awesome. So yeah, you're going to have a good time with that. So get on it, please. Awesome. Please, I need the work.
How far are you from the stretch goal, Eric?
About $500 right now. So cool. Pretty close. We've still got almost 2 weeks to go, so it's possible with your help, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm not begging. We're not begging, but you know.
but show me the money,
please. Please, I haven't eaten in a week.
So many horses' heads we can get.
Yeah, we really need those horses' heads, because then we can boil it and make a stew.
I think that's a way better stretch goal. I'd love to. That's, you know how they did the whiskey box for Deadlands? You should just come up with like rubber horses' heads for packing all your material in.
No, should just come in some concrete shoes. Oh no, that'd kill the shipping, wouldn't it? But if it came in concrete shoes, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be heavy for shipping. Like $200 just to ship it.
All right, I've got a better idea. Pack it with a gun, honest to God, real gun. That's coming to a store near you very soon. Wiseguys. Every copy comes with a horse's head and a real gun.
This is false advertisement. Okay. So on with the show after this little bit of news. Like I said, we've got a Between the Covers with Guardians of Umbra, and we're going to open up the books with questions from the mailbag.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, one and all, to Between the Covers, the hottest and most greased up segment on this podcast. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Things are going to get a bit weird in here.
No, it's nothing sexy.
Sorry, what?
It's kind of where we talk about a Savage Worlds book from cover to cover.
Like some sort of book club?
Well, essentially, yes.
Well, in that case, I'm leaving. Oh, yeah. See you later.
Guardians of Umbra. It's by Bumblebear Games, written by Michael Barbeau and Cavan Helps. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. But, so we've got a little blurb here. Shall I read it out?
Yeah, please do.
It is the year 1943, and you humans are still fighting your war with no end in sight. We would have stayed out of it if possible. We have learned that interfering in humanity's wars never ends well for us. But you would not leave us alone. The Tesla Corps, a group we will forever hold thrice damned, forced their way into Umbra, our home. They stole the goddess, Purity, from us, and took her back to Earth. We can only hope she endures whatever torture they inflict upon her, and all because they desire more power, our power. We are the Aussie, the monsters from your folklore, the creatures that go bump in the night. We wanted to be left alone, but that was not good enough for you. So when this is all over, remember, humans. Remember that we did not want this.
Yeah, that's basically a little little part of the text there that I took a little snip out of. I thought it sort of... Geez, I'm having a hard time this morning.
Don't have a heart attack on us here. It's funny how Harrison turns that intro into the sounding like the guy with the monocle from Monopoly. all of a sudden, the bad guys are Monopoly characters.
So let's start with a little pop quiz, guys. So what is a JumpStart?
Is a small sample of a setting for Savage Worlds, and it typically can include a couple of new edges from the things, maybe a short adventure, and a bit about the setting.
When you go to your car and your battery is dead,
you're an idiot.
Yeah, no, good answer. Now, there was something else that was released around the same time by Pinnacle called the mini settings. So what's the difference between the mini settings and the jump starts?
I just don't know, Eric. I just don't know. I possess not the knowledge.
I was so horribly wrong on my last guess that I'm afraid to say.
All right, so yeah, the mini settings are, well, Harrison said the jump starts are a sample of a setting, whereas a mini setting, usually around 20-something pages, some are a bit larger, around 30. They're a whole setting.
Oh, wait. I got it. It's more pages.
Well, basically, I mean, the JumpStart is just a sample of it. The mini setting, you can play it just as is. You've got a complete setting. It's just that it, instead of, 100 pages or 200 pages that you have to read, a lot of lore that Gary doesn't like to do, then you only have to read about 20 pages, and it includes everything that you need to play a setting. It's just the size of it. Smaller size, Gary. Because my buddy Matt Stark asked me what the difference was between the mini settings and the JumpStarts. And the mini settings were released by Pinnacle, and they're full settings, whereas JumpStarts are just a sample of an existing one or an upcoming setting, but those are published by the third-party publishers. So there's already 3 waves of them that were released. If you were on the Kickstarter, there's 31 of them that were released right now, and what that means is that a lot, and this is a disclaimer for possible ethical problems here, and Gary thought it was probably wise to address it before it comes up. So since Suede came out, a bunch of publishers reached out to us wanting to promote their setting, their upcoming setting, because now that it's out, now everybody's going to release it. Watch out, people, this year. There's going to be a lot of new settings coming out. And I mean, it's difficult to find the time to do all this. So at first, I just said no to everybody, but then figured that, the Wild Eye Podcast was, in a way, a service for the community. And we could do everybody good by, making an effort. The thing is, it takes time to do this for a review or an interview for a Kickstarter. Takes time to prepare, to read, and then to mix an episode. Plus, it usually means that we have to find another time for all of us to get together, or some of us to get together. We're 4 guys from 4 different time zones with busy lives and all that. So what I had to do is to ask people, third-party publishers, to pay a small amount for our time. They know ahead of time that this doesn't guarantee a good review. It just means that we're going to take the time to do it. So it is not, we don't consider it paid promotion. But if you listeners find that there's a problem with this, that you don't like it, you don't feel like we're going to do an honest review because we're getting paid to do it, let us know and we'll talk about it. We'll review it and see what we can do. Now, if you're someone who heard that there's a podcast out there that is doing something unethical and you want to show your outrage and all that, I frankly don't give a fuck what you think. Just go back to where you came from. So, yeah.
Yeah, Eric, tell him.
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. We're doing this for you guys, and we're doing this for the publishers, too, to give them more exposure for their projects. So this is basically it for Guardians of Umbra, by Bumblebear Games. And I love their little logo there. It's instead of an owl bear, it's a bumblebee and a bear. It's very good.
Does that mean that this Guardians of Umbra JumpStart is worth it simply for the idea of a Bumblebear?
Well, they earned some points there for their logo.
So 10 out of 10 on the logo. What about the JumpStart? Is it all right?
I liked it, actually. Listen, so Harrison read that little bit there, so it puts us in World War II era. It's still unclear from reading the JumpStart how much of a presence World War II plays in this setting. Is it just a backdrop to everything going on, or are the games like in the middle of it, like I don't know, World War II or Actum Cthulhu and all that. So still unclear, but so you've got the Tesla core. So these guys, it's a big company that sells weapons and technology, and they've been selling those weapons to both sides of the war. And one of the main thing about their technology is the Tesla arc, and that happens to be effective against the AOC. Now that name, I find it, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but basically think about the fairies, like the court, the summer court and winter court. It kind of reminds me of that, like goblins and fawns and these type of creatures that come from a different dimension, sort of, called the Umbra. So they're at war with the Tesla core. The twist in this game is that you play the side of the AOC. So you don't play the Tesla core guys with the weapons. Those are basically the bad guys, maybe a little bit like Nazi type of scientists and all that. So that's the basic premise of this game.
So it's World War II and fairies are attacking the Nazis.
No. From what I can tell, from my take on it, was that the Earth is fighting a war, but I think the Tesla core broke into Umbra and they stole their goddess, and I think they're using it for a weapon. So the player characters are playing these fae folk, essentially, and they're trying to get it back. Would be I would assume be the main plot point campaign, is what I'm guessing from what I'm reading. The artwork in this is stunning. Sorry to jump ahead, but I really like the art in this. It's cool.
Yeah, really good cover.
So, could be fun. I like the sound of it. Can you be like an orc, a goblin, things like this?
Yeah, you only play fae races. But look at it.
Yeah, there are a few races that you can play, and this is the fun part, I think, where interesting characters, and I'll get to that just in a little bit. Did you give you a couple setting rules for this game? One is called Realm Shift. So if you're on Earth and you're within 5 miles of a ley line, you can spend 1 Benny to shift. So to go to the Umbra world, that other world there. Now, if you're in that Umbra world and you want to go to Earth, then you need to be close to a vision pool. But it doesn't cost a Benny to shift, to travel back and forth. And then a regen. All races except golems and revenants have regen. The only thing that's not clear on that is it the fast or slow one? Because it uses regen from the Savage Worlds core book. But like I said, it doesn't specify which one. Maybe in the full book it will be specified, or maybe it's a GM call, or maybe an oversight on their part. I'm not sure. So these are the two that they give you a preview of in the JumpStart. There might be more. Now the races. They give you a preview of one in there called the Avatar of Nature. So you can choose to be a bestial or primal avatar of nature. And from there you choose, you get your basic racial package there, right? So you got things like, one of them gives you natural weapons, infravision, feral-minded, so you're more likely to turn berserk and things like that. And then the primal one gives you an armor, a weakness to basically weaker constitution in a way, but you can They have no vital organs, so that's weird. And then you get to pick one of the bestial evolutions or primal evolutions, which can make you pretty strong. Looking at this, I'm not sure if their intent was to make it like real, like a higher power level in this game, or I'm not sure, but considering you already have regen for everybody, and then if you take primal, the guy can have like a armor of +4 on top of that, and enhance photosynthesis. Spend a penny to make a vigor check, and you automatically heal 1 wound or fatigue. And an additional one for each raise. Seems like it might be difficult to kill some of these AOC folks in there. So, yeah, I'm not sure, but it does give you a race there that seems pretty cool to me to play. I mean, a lot of options. And then, of course, you got others that were mentioned before, like the Golem, where you can have a kind of custom weapon for it. There's Revenant, so you're kind of an undead type of guy. You can play a Valkyrie, winged folks, warrior type. What else? You got, Golem, and what looks to be some type of goblin. Yep, goblin-looking folk. And if you look at the cover, I think all of them are on there, and they look pretty cool.
Hey, clicky mouse guy.
Well, it's my PDF. Sorry. Yep. So that's it.
I got a question.
No,
I got a question. So it's 1943. The humans stole our goddess. We go to Earth, kick the crap out of the humans, take our goddess back. One mission setting over.
No, there'll probably be like a long drawn out thing. They take the goddess, go somewhere else. You've got to understand, it's probably not just going to be like you go in, get the person.
I think
you probably go there, find that she's in a different facility, she's been moved, whatever.
The real antagonist seems to be Tesla, and it's not just that they stole the goddess. I think that's one major crime that they've committed, but they manipulate or they get their weaponry from many unnatural or supernatural areas, and I think that's what's creating the main problems between Earth and Umbra, or at least the dimensions of Earth and Umbra. And from, if I'm getting this setting right, because you're right, it's got parts of it look really detailed and cool, but then the rest, where I'm trying to get an actual grasp of what the world is a bit light on. From what I can tell, you're essentially playing guerrilla warfare missions. You sort of jump into Earth's in chaos, and you've got this backdrop of World War II, and you've got to try and defeat the actual real enemy, which appears to be Tesla, or the Tesla Core.
But do you like Eric said, that obviously it's unclear as to whether or not World War II is like the backdrop, or if it plays a major role in it, right? So are you going to have to like fight your way through soldiers that aren't part of Tesla Core as well, and things like that, or is it just going to be?
I would assume so. I would assume so.
That'd be cool. And then
it raises a question. Yeah, it raises a question like, what are they doing with that goddess? Are they trying to weaponize something, or are they spawning new monsters with her, that type of thing, you know?
Sounds good. I mean, what would be cool as well is you could be a goblin, steal a tank and be a goblin in a tank. That'd be awesome.
I'm still trying to find the legs behind this setting, because essentially, from just what I'm reading here, if the premise is playing these AOC guys and just going and rescuing Purity as your sole mission, every time you play this game with your players, aren't you going to be like, okay, you're going to go attack this warehouse, and because that's where you think the goddess is, and then in order to make the game go longer, you're like, sorry, she wasn't there. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm failing to see the legs behind this. It's like putting the
as a JumpStart, Gary. Though they can't put a lot in it, but I would assume that part of the backdrop of the setting was also creating allies on the Earth side. If Tesla gets a foothold with either the Axis forces or the Alliance forces. That shifts the balance of power on Earth, which then they're only going to raid Umbra more.
Yeah, so here would be my take on it. Not that I'm a pro writer or anything like that, but I would have the Tesla Corps not coming to steal the goddess Purity, but invading your world, because that's where they can get these sources of power. Let's say that the AOC themselves were a source of power, and the Tesla Corps figured out how to portal into your world, abduct people, and bring them back. So your mission then would be to go and stop them from having the ability to do that. But again, that just leads me right back to the legs thing. Then all you would have to do is destroy this portal setting over.
Well, let's just take 50 Fathoms. So the whole premise is to defeat the hags, right?
That's the premise of the Plot Point campaign. But if you just wanted to run a pirate campaign, there's lots of things you can do. You can go search for treasure. You can, portal or not portal, but transport materials that way, and then get in pirate fights and stuff. You know what I mean? That's the point of the Plot Point campaign. And then once the sea hags are killed, it still doesn't remedy the situation that the world is flooded, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. It does.
They say here that whether it's because purity, the absence of purity on Umbra, or that Earth people have returned to Umbra, so they've obviously been there at some point in the past. The people of Umbra are now no longer immortal. They've started aging. So that's another big mystery that we've got to solve, and it states that the Tesla Corps must be dealt with permanently. And from the premise, looking at those edges about being able to jump backwards and forwards between dimensions rather readily, you would assume that you'd get a 50-50 sort of balance of adventures on both sides of the dimensions. And I don't think there's a portal as such. I think it's like a dimensional jump or a dimensional walk as opposed to an actual entry point, is the impression that I'm getting.
I mean, I get what Gary is saying, but I think part of running a campaign is to, pad it up with, other stuff around that, character arcs and, other stories. Yeah.
Because I mean, if you take the 50 Fathoms one, if you reduce it just down to you kill the hags setting over, it sounds bad, but everything that happens up to that point is the point, isn't it? What makes 50 Fathoms so rad?
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Gary?
No, 50 Fathoms is rad all by itself.
Yeah, but 50 Fathoms is a complete setting. This is just a JumpStart. They just give you a sample of it. So I would imagine by the quality of the writing, I've noticed so far that there's a lot more to it. But, and this one is 21 pages. You can only share so much. So we'll see. We'll just have to see.
And it's free to go through.
The arcane background. So not allowed in Guardians of Umbra are psionic, weird science. This is restricted to the Tesla Corps guys, and superpowers. So I'm not sure if superpowers is an artifact left from Deluxe and they meant gifted, or is it the superpowers companion? So I would imagine it's just an artifact left over from Deluxe and they actually meant gifted. So you can still use the other ones, which are magic and faith. Although I didn't see any reference to faith in JumpStart, but there's a new arcane background called Viscomancy. Sounds a bit lewd. I don't know. Viscomancy. Gary.
Bukakomancy.
I have a question.
No.
Weird science is not allowed for who?
For the AOC, for the Fae folks that you play. They're allowed for the Tesla Corps guys.
Okay. That makes sense. It was like, wait a second, aren't they using like goddess spirit energy guns? So I see what you're saying. We're on the same page.
Yeah. So Viscomancy, what it is, it functions like magic, like arcane background magic, but instead is that you collect parts of dead bodies that contain magical energy from what I can understand. So what you do is you do a healing check to remove a vessel from a body. It's one vessel per creature that you can collect that way, and you can carry up to spirit die type number of vessels. Now, once you have these vessels, you can use them to increase your spellcasting roll by 1 or regain 1 power point for each of those vessels. So I like the +1 of spellcasting. Now, the regain 1 power point, that seems like an option I probably wouldn't take, considering that now with Suede you can spend 1 Benny to regain 5 power points.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like enough.
Yeah, but yeah, that might be yet another artifact left over from Deluxe. But I like the idea behind it. I mean, that's something, that's an arcane background that actually has flavor. You know, you'd be walking around with heads or maybe a heart or a liver or a spleen.
Butthole.
There it is. There it is.
Just a necklace of buttholes.
You'd stretch it out and put it over your head, wear it like a turtleneck.
You guys are terrible. There's actually a illustration of that, which looks like a goblin guy holding one of these vessels.
There's an illustration of somebody. Oh, right. Sorry. No, I misunderstood. I thought that they'd taken our idea.
No, that would be a Grammar World from Colin the Cobb. Colin. But no, so this is a new arcane background, and it's one of the pre-gens that you can play in there. Now the edges, so there's a few, and most of them look pretty good to me. Hold on, there's going to be some clickety-click here, Gary. Sorry. I know it annoys you, but I have to do it. So, okay.
So unprofessional.
The thing with the AOC is that like I mentioned before, they're kind of weak to those magnetic fields used by the Tesla core, but there's an edge there that makes you not as sensitive to it as to the Tesla arcs. So yeah, we can do that. Then there are edges for the Viscomancy there, where you can carry double the number of arcane vessels. And a bunch of other ones. I'm not going to go through all of them, but they have six new edges in there. And then the hindrances, they show 5 of them.
Just if you look at the primal warden edge there, it's the line that says the call of Gaia to protect the earth is stronger with some than others. So there's obviously the link between Umbra and Earth is strong. It would appear that these AOC lived on Earth before they left and went to Umbra to get away from the humans. And so Earth in itself is in trouble. So you can I'm assuming that whatever the Tesla core is doing is affecting Earth or may damage or destroy the Earth. And there's probably a link between that and Umbra. I'm only making some suppositions here.
Right.
I get it. For me, I'm getting, going back to what Gary was saying, I'm getting a real Hellboy feel about the setting, but from the other side, as if the supernatural are it's like the BPD or the what Hellboy was doing was to protect the Earth from the weird and the strange and the supernatural. And it feels to me that the Tesla are a bit like the Nazis within that Hellboy scenario, where they were tapping into powers that they shouldn't be, which is unbalancing the Earth and creating damage and destruction everywhere.
The only real difference, I guess, though, is that in Hellboy, the things that come out of the rift thing are like, they're like Cthulhu mythos inspired things or horror inspired things, and they're really cool. But in this, their portal opens up and a bunch of fairies and goblins come out. Oh, fiddle-dee-dee!
Wow.
Actually, the goblins and fairies in this looks actually pretty cool, and there's nothing to say that they're not going to tap into those darker realms. Maybe that's what's destroying the Earth. Maybe that's what Tesla's tapping into.
What I'm sort of envisioning with this setting, right, is you've got the Nazis. It's World War II, right? The dust settles after a harsh gunfight, and then the Germans are all reloading in their trenches or whatever, and then suddenly a rift opens, 100 gnomes come out all armed to the teeth with daggers. Run at them. They're running across no man's land. A mine blows up. 5 gnomes fly 50 feet into the air. possess 5 more. But the gnomes, they just keep running, and then they overrun. The Germans are like, uh-oh, the English are coming. They look above their trenches. They did not see that coming. Gnomes, all with daggers in their teeth, dive into the trenches, start slashing at them.
Aren't you sold?
Yeah.
I'm sold. You just sold.
I was on the fence, man, but somebody pushed me right over. I have a question though. This is something that I find humorous. You ever notice that in every story, Earth is just like a hive of scum and villainy, and everybody's always trying to get away? Like the AOC were living here at one point, but the humans showed up. We're out because they're jerks. Where's the setting where people are like, our planet's a real piece of crap. Earth is our last hope, and they try and get to Earth to hang out with the cool human people.
Yeah, they do that. When they get here, we treat them like shit. Didn't you see District 9?
They immediately backpedal and go back to their dump of a planet.
And there's a weird edge called enhanced shifting for doppelganger, so that seems to be another race there, always popular to be able to change your appearance. But I know what you're saying, Harrison, and that the Fae folks is always something for me in fantasy where I don't quite get it. I'm thinking Tinkerbell instead of really like Grimtooth or a Red Cap, which are really terrifying. I mean, if you look at the Brothers Grimm tales, there's a lot of Fae folk in there, and it's quite dark. So, and the artwork, from what I can see in this JumpStart, really reflect the more grim, dark angle of it, instead of being, like you said, gnomes with butter knives or something just jumping out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I think it's just the particular brand of monster that you play has make me think twice. But I actually would like to check this out. I think it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
The hindrances, most of them seem to be mechanical in nature, except one called Humanophil. So you like the culture of humans. Like, well, Gary was just saying why does people hate Earth and humans, but with this one, you like the culture, and you try to emulate them by the way you dress, and maybe you like burgers. You're a Fae folk who likes burgers or something like that. So one good thing about the edges and hindrances in this JumpStart is that they really, I think, nail the theme, the tropes of their games. They don't feel disconnected from it. So, like Paris was talking about, the link they have with Earth and Umbra is reinforced through these edges. But same thing with the hindrances, where you have a blind third eye, where you can't even spend a penny to realm shift into the Umbra. You need someone else to take you there. You're stuck. One is heightened sensitivity, so those Tesla arc things affect you even more. You suffer more damage. You suffer -1 persuasion and intimidation while a piece of Tesla tech is nearby. Then bestiary, you got failed experiment. That looks like a creature straight out of Resident Evil with claws deformed, like think an ogre with really nasty kind of cyberware. Even one of them on the picture there looks like he's got a leg that's like a robot leg, and he's got a claw for one hand, and deformed, scary thing. Then gremlins, Tesla brute, and a Tesla enforcer, which would be the run of the mill, I would imagine, in any game that you play in there. After that, you've got a short story, about 4 pages. What's interesting about this one? Well, it's well written. I like it, but it's actually the prologue to the sample adventure that you have in there, called Deep Well Rescue. Now, this tale is probably going to be my biggest knock on this. The way it's presented, it seems to assume a few things in there. Like, it assumes that your character did whatever happened in that short story, and basically it's a rescue. There's a creature there that's been kidnapped in a facility, in a Tesla facility, and you have to rescue that person. But instead of letting the party decide how they want to do this, it's like it's laid out as, okay, now the party does this, and then it gives you maybe two options, two choices. They may want to do this, or they may want to do that. If they choose this part, go to 2A. If they choose this part, go to 4B or whatever. It could have used a map, just a simple map layout of the facility to say, all right, these. And what I'm trying to say is that instead of writing it as a maybe one-shot dungeon where all the places are described and then the players choose how they want to tackle this, they sort of hold your hand. The GM has to hold the player's hand through this rescue, where it feels like you have the illusion of choices, like I said, in some places where you can choose two paths. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of this adventure, the way it's presented. I had to read it twice to really understand what's going on. You've got part 1, part 2, and then you got another part 2 that they should have named part 3, and then part 3, part 4A, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan. And then the pre-gens that come with it, you get 2, 4, 6, 5. Yeah, 5 pre-gens, and then a blank sheet in case you want to make one for an extra player. So I would say maybe out of 10, I would give this a good 8. Like Harrison, it isn't really my thing there to play with the Fey folks and all that, but it is a rather unique twist on the whole thing. You would expect normally people would play Tesla Core instead, but no, you play the Fey folks, which is good. Artwork is really good. Layout and presentation really well done too. I don't have anything bad to say. The only knocks, like I said, the Deep Well Rescue, not a fan of it. It's not something I would want to run personally. But yeah, the rest I would say well done. And like I said, it makes me curious how much of a factor does World War II play in this setting, which could really make it a lot more interesting to me. So I'm hoping, if not, yeah.
So that's Guardians of Umbra, and it's a game where you play fantasy monsters, and it makes you question, who is the real fantasy monster? Is it man? But I've actually, as good as that all was, and I really enjoyed it, I've got something very special for you guys. Because it's time for Harrison's Fact Corner. You ready for a fact, guys? I had a few complaints about the last fact, that it was a fact about Dutch elms and was incorrect. So people have accused me of not being smart, and I am smart. And to prove that, I'm going to hit you with a fact now. And this one is actually related to Savage Worlds. Did you know that Shane Hensley, the writer of Savage Worlds, once was a world record holder for fitting hot dogs in his mouth? Whoosh. Harrison's Fact Corner.
So these Aosi, are they the Valkyrie? They're just basically the Aosi, or any kind of a Golem, a Beast Man, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they seem to have. I'm actually quite interested in this setting. It's
why did everyone ignore my segment? What's happening here? What? Acknowledge it. I put a lot of work into that. Do you have any idea how much time it took me to research that? 47.
Awesome.
47.
That was the amount of hot dogs. That was the amount of hot dogs he got in his mouth.
47. Where did this record take place?
In his
County
mouth.
Fair in Omaha.
Which one?
It was. I don't. Okay. All right. Paris.
You said you did a lot of research, dude.
I did a lot of research. All I found out was his hot dog mouth thing, and I knew it was at a county fair.
Except,
all right. How about we open up the books?
Now, little Jimmy, you know what time it is?
Is it really?
Why, yes. It is that time indeed. It's time to open up the books.
Yes.
So, go over to Grandpa's bookshelf and go and pick any book you like. And then we'll open it up and we'll have a good look inside.
What about this one?
No, not that one. No, that's Grandpa's special book for his alone time.
Oh, okay, what about this one?
No, not that one either. That's, no, you know what, in fact, bugger off. Go away. No, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
Open up the books.
Shane Hensley's mouth full of hot dogs.
I might cut that.
So what rule set are we changing this podcast to?
Yeah. We're going to be a fate podcast.
Oh, God. My worst nightmare. All right, so we have got some listener emails and things. So we're going to get into those now. Terry Hansen, he says, Dear Eric, Harrison, and Gary, when to award conviction is not quite being fully grasped by my brain. In the game I ran for my kids tonight, I awarded it to my daughter for fully giving into her greedy hindrance. She used her invisibility power and snuck into the harbour master's vault. She blew all her bennies on rerolls to ensure she wouldn't get caught. She succeeds and just won the group a significant windfall. I awarded her a conviction point because it was a great personal victory for her greedy character. I reread Conviction after the game, and I think I awarded it incorrectly. It seems Conviction is really for epic wins or losses. What are examples of Conviction awards in your games? What is your take on Conviction? That's from Terry Hansen there.
Anybody read it? Conviction? What is it?
I did, yeah. And it seems like, as it says in the book, as Terry mentions, that it's for epic wins and epic losses. And obviously they basically don't work like a Benny, but you can spend at any time to add a D6 to the final trait roll of any trait roll, basically, which is kind of awesome. Or damage.
Yeah, it is a setting rule in Savage Worlds, so you don't have to use it, but it's there.
And personally, yeah, it does say epic wins or losses, and specifically for a character. And I think it depends on. There's going to be loads of different variations for that. But if, so for example, Deadlands, and if you challenged your rival to a duel and then beat him, and then that might be something where you would award conviction, because they carry over to the next game, so they can be quite powerful. Obviously, you can only have one at a time, but the thing is that I think it has to be like personal victories or personal losses. That's it. That's the way I sort of interpreted it. But how about you guys?
Well, he did mention that it was a great boon, so something obviously very big happened. For the party, so it sounds like to me he played it right. At least
that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. It does look like it. I haven't used it. Basically, I think until I see it in a setting, a published setting with an example. So, what is it? Something more like a house rule, like critical failures or Joker's Wild used to be, where you could use it basically in any setting, or is it something that really needs a certain flavor to be part of it? And I think, like Terry, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around it as to why would I choose to use that rule, that setting rule in my game.
Didn't it come out of Flash Gordon?
Yeah, it did. It was originally in Flash Gordon, and I think what it does is it encourages people to, I guess, do more epic stuff. I mean, Benny's already do that, but I mean, specifically trying to win at something or succeed greatly in something rather than just doing whatever you want, maybe lends itself to high fantasy things. Maybe
Yeah, I also
heroic
see
characters. I don't know.
I see it as a reward because one of the things it's not that it's annoyed me, but because we reset bennies every session, right? If you have a cliffhanger or a really cool ending that will lead into the next session, and so if that player does something that you would normally award a benny for, they don't get that reward because come next session all the bennies reset. But if they've got a conviction token, not only have we left the story at a cliffhanger, and they've got this special benny or this special token that they can hold on to for as long as they want, but you can only ever hold one if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Then that's I don't know. I like it. I like that idea I haven't used it yet myself, but just reading through Terry's thing, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give that a go with my guys. Just that special. Just need something special though that they can hold on to. The way Flash Gordon had a spaceship or something. Is that right? You got a metal spaceship token if you bought the set.
That was like a cliffhanger token, but as far as I remember, but I can't remember what that token was for. But I don't think it was for that. But with conviction in the book, it suggests like if you're playing Deadlands to put a marshal's badge and hand that out to people as the conviction thing. But if you're playing 50 Fathoms, you could have some seaweed. No, I don't know. That's a bad one.
Well, they say
doubloons.
Doubloons, yeah. When I read Conviction, it reminded me a little bit of the Legend ship in Deadlands, where you've defeated a major enemy in the setting. So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. To me, it's taken me years to develop the reflex of awarding bennies. So now if we add conviction to that, I feel like it's going to take me a while to get used to, because you have to pay attention to what's going on. They do say in there in the description that players should bring it up if they feel like they've accomplished something important for their character, but it just feels like just one more thing to think about. And until I try it or see it in action, I just don't feel compelled right now to use this setting rule, I guess. Paris mentioned that, bennies reset at the beginning of next section, but there are a few instances in adventures where they say if you finish there and you award a benny for this, just have that one carry over, which wouldn't be that difficult to do either. So I don't know. I like the idea behind it. It's just the implementation right now that I'm trying to justify using it. But it's a cool idea.
I'm running a game for you guys soon, and I might use it in there, and then we'll see how it goes, see how it works out.
That D6 on a trait roll. The only other place I can recall it is Shine Tower, isn't it? Where you can spend a benny to do that.
Extra effort and Savage Rifts too. It's in there. Yeah.
Okay.
So I like the idea that it's a different mechanic. Instead of giving you a reroll like a benny does, you get the extra the acing D6 on a certain skill or trait. But this to me is just muddying the waters. Like you said, Eric, we've already got bennies. Why do you want to start throwing this in? And then you have to really pay attention to. If you're using this in your game, all of a sudden one of your players thinks they do something cool and you hurt their feelings as a game master because you didn't recognize the cool thing they did by giving them conviction. Here's what I would suggest. Why not take the conviction and have a similar... When I dole out bennies, especially when I was playing Deadlands, I had a bag, and in the bag I had the different colored chips, and I would just hand them to my players, but because the chips were all the same, they couldn't feel the color, right? So I would suggest using something along the same lines, and why not throw them in the same bag? So when you reach in to get your benny, you could pull out a conviction chip, so you're not, you know what I mean? You get at least it gives you a different option without having to put any thought into it and forego the idea. We're already, with bennies, giving our players benefits for doing cool things. This just seems like now you have to differentiate between the cool thing and the super, super, super cool thing. That, you know what I mean? Yeah. It just feels muddy to me.
I do have to agree, and I think the idea of just having a different coloured one, or just put a mark on a couple of them in the bag, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Because then you still get to use that cool mechanic.
I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid. Like, sorry guys, the idea of the conviction is that this was a particularly monumental time in the game that it comes up. If you're just pulling stuff randomly out of a bag, that's
Yeah, I know that. It's just that what Gary said, I think, is a good suggestion, because then you can sort of use that to emulate the Deadlands style of Benny's a little bit, but within other genres. I think it's cool. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. It does need to be awarded for specifically like doing awesome stuff. But I think I'm starting to agree with Gary. I like the sound of it, but now you think about it. Also, the fact that it tells players to ask for them. No, you don't talk to me.
Wow. I think they would be great.
Don't talk to me.
These things would be great for Paris' situation, where you're dealing with kids that may not be a little socially awkward, and like you were talking about that kid last time that was doing all that cool stuff in the Wiseguys game, and he sort of came out of a shell. That is sort of like an epic thing from your perspective, right? When you see this happening, that's where you slide the conviction thing in. But then I feel like, I still feel like it muddies the water, because you're just giving one kid the cookie in front of the whole class, kind of a thing, if that makes any sense.
Does it say there can't be one conviction per player?
No, just one conviction. That's it. It's like winning the first place prize. Or you know what you do? You get one of those medals that, like, from the trophy store that says first place on it, and that's your conviction, and you only give it to the one kid. And when he leaves school, he gets his ass whooped, and then that thing's stolen from him.
Because it says a player can never have more than one, but I don't see anything written here that says there can't be more than one of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought there could be multiple.
I'm sure there is.
That a player can only have one at a time.
Yes.
And in that respect, I don't see how it muddies the water any more than just like chucking him in a bag.
Well, chucking who in a bag?
Yeah, why would you chuck a kid in a bag?
Talking about.
All right, let's move on to another one from Anonymous. So the guy doesn't want, his players listen to the show too, so he doesn't want it to be recognized. And he sent quite a long email there, which I'm just going to sum up because I don't want to read this for like 10 minutes. But basically his problem is that some of his combat seem to drag on for too long. He mentions in there that he threw in a villain with high toughness that could be that you could get around it by going against their weakness, probably a called shot somewhere, something like that, and that it feels like players don't use a lot of the options in Savage Worlds, like support and things like that, to make them more effective. So as a result, it sort of drags on, and he's not sure. He doesn't want to spoon feed them that information, and he's wondering if it would be a good idea to just, when it gets too long, when it drags on for too long, to switch gears and use quick combat instead, so quick encounters in the middle of it. So, yeah. What do you think? Let's start with Paris.
Probably the thing that struck out for me first reading that email was I think this gentleman or lady may be doing what I was doing at the start of my Savage Worlds career, where I was playing combat like I would in D&D. So it was very much, very much stand up and fight, and it was all about toughness and skills and not so much the actual tactics or how or why the creatures were fighting. And you guys have mentioned many times that if you want your players to learn something, do it to them first. All right, gang up. If you want to teach them gang up bonuses, get people to gang up. If you want to teach them about wild attacks, get the NPCs to do wild attacks, and show your players how and why the Savage Worlds rules in a combat situation can become pretty deadly very quickly if they're applied together. And if you're if you want your characters, or if you want your player characters to start using, tricks so that they can advantage the rest of the party, then have your sneaky goblins do some of those things. Most in D&D, goblins are usually played, they run up, they thwack, they get thwacked, they die, or you die. Whereas if you really look at goblins as being these small creatures that are not, they don't want to stand toe-to-toe. That's not what they're built for. They would be doing a lot more sneak attacks and trick attacks and taunting and trying to get people offside. So to show that as part of, we show your bad guys doing it, and hopefully your players will pick up on it real quick, or they'll fall.
What about using switching to quick encounters? Would you do that?
Me, no. I'm not a fan of quick encounters personally.
Neither am I.
I think that robs the player of, especially when again, depending on the game. But if I've spent all my time building a fighter for my fantasy game, or an archer or a sharpshooter in a modern game, and we go, all right, that was cool. Now we can just do quick combat. I'd feel robbed big time. I feel robbed really big. So no, I'm not a fan of quick.
No, I was going to say one thing that I've always found whenever I have a fight that really drags on, that's something that I've been involved in. It's often when you have loads and loads and loads of NPCs as well, and people think sometimes that builds a cool encounter, and it really doesn't. It have a reasonable number, so that it's still challenging, obviously, and just don't flood the battlefield with loads and loads of people. I've seen it done so many times, and it can drag like a lot. And another thing that I use in my games is a mechanic that is obviously from a lot of D20 games and older games, is morale checks. If the leader goes down, or at least half of them are down, make morale checks. And some of them might run away or run and hide because they've been scared by your awesome power. Don't do it for like really big important fights, but maybe like the ones where you're just trudging through the woods, goblins jump out. If you kill half of them, then goblins are stupid, but they're not stupid enough to just sit there and lay down their lives for no good reason. Not
everybody fights to the death. That's the thing.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's the reason I always use that. It doesn't matter which game I'm playing in. If people know that they're outnumbered and know that they're going to die or outgunned or whatever, the chances are they might not hang around. So it's a good tactic to use. You don't do it all the time, but sometimes, just roll morale checks, give them a spirit roll, and see if they actually have the gall to carry on fighting.
Yeah, I know that's something I've been doing more and more, where if the party starts fighting, I don't know, 12 or 15 creatures, and like after 5 rounds there's only 2 or 3 of them left, they'll just surrender, or they'll try to run away, because sometimes no, because their motivation means that they're gonna fight to the death because they got their backs against the wall. But yeah, like Harrison says, not everybody fights to the death. One thing from this that I gather, and it's basically a question I'm going to send back to that person, because there's still a lot of information missing from this to really try to diagnose what's going on. But something I used to do a lot is, after a combat where my bad guy went down too fast, I started trying to come up with ways to increase toughness for my bad guys, just thinking that'll give them more lasting power. But usually what it ends up doing is just backfiring, and they just have too much staying power for some reason. Nobody can seem to hit them. So I would ask him, do you think that the toughness was just too high for that guy? As for switching, in the middle of a combat, switch to quick encounter, no, I would not do it. I would maybe start that encounter as a quick encounter, but not switch midway. It would feel, I don't know, not cheating, but I can understand. If I was a player, I would feel like, what?
Yeah, I know I harp back on playing it like D&D, but ultimately, as the GM, especially, you have complete control over that battle. Like, if it's dragging too long, then bring in something that changes the situation, that the battle breaks up, or bring in the morale checks. Because if you've killed half of them, the other half aren't going to hang around, even unless they think they have tactical advantage, or they might be just there to achieve their. I've seen a lot of scenarios played out where the bad guys have got an objective, but for some reason they won't do their objective unless they've killed everyone around them, as opposed to, we've got what we want now and we're out. So I've seen that a few times, and that's back to that D&D mentality where you just keep fighting until there's only one, there's nobody left.
Sweet. The he makes a couple of points. You guys are talking about multiple armies and stuff like that. He's talking about, in his example, it's one creature with a high toughness, and their crappy rolls couldn't break it. So I'd be interested to hear how you would deal with that specifically instead of multiple players. But here's the thing. This is my take on it. You say in your letter, with each subsequent round, I was watching the frustration and boredom on my players' faces become more and more apparent. My advice to you as an aged gamer is you need to get over whatever that is, because you see boredom on their faces, and that could just be you like self-analyzing because you don't think it's going to plan, and your players could be having the time of their friggin' lives. And you know what I mean? Like, you want to make sure that you're not imparting your own feelings because you're seeing that they're not taking this guy out, right? So just work on that a little bit somehow. Get a self-help book kind of a thing. I don't know what to tell you, but there's try not to read the players is what I'm saying, because you'll find at the end of the session, I've had it where I thought things weren't going well, and then at the end of the game, people are like, man, that was the most awesome session I've ever had. And I start thinking to myself, well, Jesus, you've really played some crappy games in your life then, because I felt like that sucked, right? Do you have any experience starting combat? Yeah, I've had lots of experience. You just grab the deck of cards and start throwing them out. When it becomes apparent the action is slowing down, switching gears to quick combat, never, ever do that. The reason is if we sit down to play chess and halfway through it, I smash the board off the table and throw down checkers, your players are like, what are you doing? Like, you just completely switch gears. I came over to play chess and all of a sudden we're playing checkers. Like, this is ridiculous. I would never, ever do that. Just bear it out. Maybe give them suggestions. You guys might want to try gang up bonus. You guys might want to try a different way to defeat him. If you can't break through his toughness, maybe this guy's got a weakness that they can find. He's if he's like, say, he's a giant armored mech, all of a sudden the players notice there's a back panel where they can hop up there and turn the power switch off, like Data from Star Trek. He had that switch in his back, kind of a thing.
Is that what's going to happen later in the game today?
I don't know. It depends how bad you guys suck. If I don't completely blow you up with my missiles from my junk mech Golem, which is going to be awesome. But all that said, I don't care what your faces look like. They're gonna be awesome when I completely smash you with my missiles of destructive explosionness.
Do you guys think from this email that the players are new to Savage Worlds? That
it sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, they haven't quite grasped but they haven't maybe been introduced to all the possibilities within Savage Worlds combat. So they've now released that combat sheet for Suede, haven't they?
Yep.
As a free download. So hand one of those to each player, start, and maybe next session, at the start of next session, maybe have a chat with the guys about how they find combat, so that at least then they'll know whether they, like Gary was saying, the GM will know whether they were enjoying it or not, and have some discussions about how combat can be run.
Yep.
And also, don't forget the environment. Don't forget to explain everything, or not explain everything, but if this particular monster was hard to bring down for whatever reason, was there a way to trap it or use the environment to stop it? Or, again, were there any clues given that might have been brought out to show how to defeat it, stop it?
That's what I was going to say, because whenever my players have often come up against this, like a lot, because obviously when I run things like Saga of the Goblin Horde, Sodom and Cain, Deadlands, so some of those settings are full of enemies that are extremely tough, like have a really high toughness rating. And the way I've always seen people react when they're like, we can't hit this thing, it's like, right, we need to try something else. you know, and maybe I don't know, because we always say on this show, isn't it? If you want players to learn something, do it to them, exactly as Paris said, you know. But the thing is that you can't really teach that to a player via doing that. You can't go, oh, I can't hit him, so let's try something else, because the bad guy's probably going to be able to hit them. So I don't know. It's a weird one to try and teach them. But, you know, like, for example, you're fighting the giant mech, as Gary said, and well, then you see that it's not being damaged by toughness. Try pouring some water in that back panel. Try setting it on fire, felling a tree and smashing it on top of it, whatever. If you can't hit it and you're not doing damage, you have to try something else. So maybe, as Paris said, when you discuss it with your players, just say, oh, by the way, if a monster is really tough, you can try anything. I'll obviously allow it, and you can try it. You may not succeed, but you will try it. And that might be a good like message to get across to your players.
Oh.
Also,
and tell them to be sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, just tell them to be imaginative too. That's one of the things about what I like about Suede is it's not set what you can do. If you come up with a plan or an idea as a support or a trick or a test, you can apply almost any skill or trait roll to it now. So just tell your players to throw it out there, and not only will that be more interesting as a game, it'll give them more involvement and get them more invested.
The last thing I want to say about that is, at the end of your session, this whole the player's frustration and boredom thing is really sort of, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of pushing my buttons a little bit here, in the sense that I want to help, because I've had those issues before. Have your players either do here's two examples of things you can do. Just if you're comfortable sitting down and talking to your players, just have a discussion with them. Ask them if they liked it, find out how they really felt about it. And if you think that your players aren't comfortable with it, like if I was playing, say, at Nerd Haven in an environment where I'm playing with people that aren't my close friends or my own gaming group, what they can do is you can have them go home and type out a letter and tell you exactly how they felt about the game, and not put their name on it. And when they come back at the end of this next session or whatever, everybody can give you their feedback. This eliminates the players from having to attach their name to saying, okay, you sucked at this and this is why. Or, you know what I mean? It puts that barrier between you where they can give you honest feedback without any repercussions, so to speak. And there's two ideas that I would try. Either have a straight up conversation with them at the end of the session, see how they felt about it, or ask them for feedback, and they can give it, like I said, typed out without their name on it, which makes it generic and you don't know who it's from. Try those things on for size, but try and get a real feel and talk to your players and see how they really feel about it. Maybe they're having the time of their lives, and you were just your own inner was working against you, so to speak. Anyways, on to stupid Pearson's email.
Yeah, sorry. We're running a bit low on time, so we'll try and bash this one out. Jamie Pearson has sent us an email, and he says, so in Suede, if I'm not mistaken, you can now do the same action up to 3 times, such as fighting, shooting, bumming, casting, and so on. Does this affect combat in a way that makes it even more difficult to prepare for as a GM? We all know that in Savage Worlds, it's very swingy, as with exploding dice. So to say to prepare can be a bit misleading. I'm wondering if, with these new rules, if the players can now blow through the baddies even faster because of the multiple attacks that can be done in a single turn. Gary.
All right. This is kind of a 2-part deal. I don't understand how you prepare for your player to do 3 actions as a dungeon master. Those two don't go together. They're two completely opposing and opposite things. When you sit down and you put your miniature on the table, or you put your token on the tabletop, and your player's like, I'm going to shoot it 3 times. I can't prepare for that as a game master. It's not something I can prepare ahead of time. Anyways, that said, that doesn't make any sense to me. The other part of the question is, does it make them blowing through baddies? Okay, so I'm just wondering if these new rules that the players can now blow through baddies even faster because of the multiple attacks. The answer to that question is no. And the reason why is, with all of the Suede games that we've played, I find I have the least success when I'm shooting things 3 times at -4 plus any other modifiers that you add on. If you're rolling a D8 and you have a -6 on your penalty, you only have like 2 chances out of 8 to succeed, and that just reduces it so much that usually you either miss or your spell doesn't go off or something along those lines, right? So the modifiers for it almost, to me, don't make it worth it. I don't remember that one game we played there. I was throwing down, I think I threw all my bennies on it because I wanted my 3 spells to go off. When it does work, however, it's pretty cool, but yeah, you don't go through anything any faster. You just end up missing more and doing nothing. I think it might actually work in the opposite way, and you're not taking them out one by one. So anyways, what do you think, Eric?
Yeah, it's funny because in our games, well, mostly Gary and I, Harrison a little bit, but I noticed when I play, and even when Gary plays, we try a bunch of multiple action every round. Basically, I'll do in Gary's game, I'm like a swashbuckler type of character, so I try tests. Last game, I try to kick a bunch of crates over a guy and then slash him skewer him with my rapier, and that didn't really work out all that great. So basically, yeah, you can attack 3 times, but it's just like before with multiple action. Like Gary said, the -2, -4, we're playing at novice and season right now. When you do that, it's basically you're going to end up with maybe one of them succeeding. If you had the Joker that round, that might help if you make 2 actions, but 3 actions, no, forget it. You're gonna fail at all 3 most likely most of the time. So I don't feel like it's making it possible to mow down baddies left and right faster. It allows you the option to try it, but the success rate is really low.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It really, you take a penalty. It's in the rules. I don't get why has he even asked this question? Get out.
Well, yeah, the only thing that I've noticed differently is more likely for a combination of 2 attacks with wild attack. So if you're attacking twice with the same sword and a wild attack, you've got 2 attacks without technically any negatives there, except of course that you're now easier to hit. I don't think I've actually seen anyone in my games try 3 yet, even with the Joker. 2 attacks or 2 actions, sorry, if they have the Joker is pretty standard. I think that was standard out of Deluxe. So no, in terms of that, it hasn't really changed, but it has given the potential for more cinematic rounds, I think, if they're prepared to push it.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we got time for one more?
Yeah.
All right. Terry Hansen, he comes in. He says, how would you run a really intense action-filled chase scene? How would you ensure the players felt the tension and excitement of the chase? They are some of the most exciting scenes in a movie, but fall flat in games. Why is that?
I bet Harrison's got a good answer for that. Huh?
That's why I sort of wanted to talk about this, yes.
I think it comes personally. Personally, I think it comes down to narration. That's what it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. You have to put in the effort to do it, and it can get tiresome after a couple rounds and after like 20 people have gone in that chase to come up with interesting things. But that's what it comes down to. The tone of your voice, which I don't have. The excitement.
Yep. That's why all your chases are dull, Eric.
Yeah.
He's doing what? Who's doing what?
Eric, are you all right? Have you just creamed?
Is he coming, Eric? He's coming. Oh!
Can you feel the excitement? Oh! He's coming! Oh! He's gonna get you! Oh!
And
wow. Yeah, I think that's about it, isn't it? If you have Eric running a chase scene and he's doing that voice, it's going to get tiresome real quick.
Yeah,
that's why they fall flat.
You might want to put your drink down.
A cigarette.
Probably roofied it.
Whenever I run chases in Savage Worlds, I tend to do them. If we take, I was going to talk about a game I'm going to run at SavageCon, but I know there's 2 listeners playing in it, so I'm going to not talk about it. But I tend to run them like a bit more like Mad Max Fury Road. And that was really exciting because it was both a chase and a fight going on at the same time. And I know that, so the new chase rules are somewhat similar to how I've done it. But the way I do it is I put, let's say the vehicle is a car or whatever. I cut out a 3x2 like square grid, and then that's the car, and then put it on some cardboard. Now the players can place themselves where they are in the car, and then you draw initiative, and on that person's turn they can try and drive. And I've got rules for this actually, and then it can determine where you move on the grid. And the two cars are kind of going along next to each other. But then if people on their turn want to jump onto the roof, they're fighting on top of the car, like in Mad Max when they're fighting on top of that giant truck. Or they can use agility to leap over to the other car and start bashing the people in there or whatever. The point is I tend to run it more like that. So it's a big action-filled vehicular fight rather than it being specifically a chase.
What if there's no vehicles involved?
If they're just running, then I would have it as a running fight.
So they just jump on the person's back, piggyback style?
Yeah, then they all start running. And then the people who are running make agility rolls to continue running. The people on the backs, they can fire their guns, punch the other dude. That's the only way to do it.
Eric said narration. I would say experience. How do you run in a really intense action-filled chase scene? Just keep doing it. How many times did we do chase to try and get it nailed down? You'll find that the chase scenes inside of Suede get better the more you and your players are familiar with the rules. When you realize how it works, what your players have to learn is the actions they can take when it's their turn, and you as a GM have to sort of push the scene forward, but it's practice. It's practice, especially with the new chase rules.
Here's the trouble, though. If you just stick to the core set of rules and ignore that dumbass, stupid, crappy-ass mini-game that they put into Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, then the players already know what actions they can take.
Nope, that's not true.
They don't have to know the new rules. So they already know. They already know to leap across, they can use athletics, or to fire, they can use shoot, or to drive, they can use driving, and all of this stuff. They can just tell me, I want to ram the thing, and then you can say, okay, give me a driving roll. You're next to him, so that's fine with the little grid method that I've got going on.
And I love the chase rules.
There's the trick.
Love the new chase rules.
I hate them.
I think they help make it so much more cinematic. And the thing that I really want to add to making for chase scenes, probably more so, as important in combat, but it's important in combat, but more so in a chase scene is environment. The environment on where this chase is happening. Things that come out of nowhere, left turns, sharp left turns, or if you're running across rooftops, those tiles that slide out, or the gaps between buildings, or that stupid cat that was up there sunning itself, the kid's in the way, the little old lady pushing the trolling cart when you're trying to run down the road. Environment makes it far more interesting in a chase, and the more you can add on that get your players to see that road or that path or that rooftop that they're running down, definitely add that in. That makes a huge difference.
Really good point, because in all the most famous chase scenes, even like pulpy movies and things like this, you always see the two guys carrying the pane of glass across the street, and then you have to swerve to avoid it, or they're cardboard boxes or whatever. And I did one where I was playing Thrilling Tales once, and we ran a chase where they were going through London in cars, and then when they got to like a crowded market, they started crashing through the stalls, and the oranges were flying into the air, and people were screaming, diving out the way, and it just that's how they would do it in a film. So
that's the thing. Like you just said, the market. Have a banana end up on the car seat next to them, or a head of lettuce, and now they have something to interact with to bounce off. That's where the narration comes up. Yeah. Gary, are you going to say something stupid about the banana?
No, I was just mad. Could you see on my face that look? I've been thinking about this and waiting for my turn. I'm like, watch out for that Frenchman eating his poutine. He's not paying attention. There goes your Wiseguys setting. Sorry.
Wow. That was worth it, man. That was a good one. Maybe you could slip on a banana, skid, and then hit Frenchman by accident.
Right? Spill his poutine on you. Now you got gravy on you.
A chase isn't a chase unless a Frenchman is killed.
Then you can be like, oh, he's coming. Oh. Now you got the Frenchman's gravy on you.
I think we've found a good episode title there.
Yeah, and just, I don't know, when you get a chance, watch some movies with some really cool foot chase scenes or car chase scenes. Is it The Italian Job, the one with all the mini makes? And
yeah,
that's brilliant for a chase scene. Or a lot
Jason
of the
Bourne.
Then if you watch is it Casino Royale, the first Bond movie with what's his name, Daniel Craig? That chase that he has at the start. You guys don't remember? Anyway, watch it.
No, I don't
that
remember.
give you an idea. There's a fair bit of parkour and stuff in it.
Yeah, James Bond, Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Jason Bourne, they all have great chase scenes.
Yeah, and all of those chase scenes, no matter how good the people are in it, it's always something that gets in their way that messes stuff up.
Yeah, and they're always through like crowded streets as well, which can be exciting because you're trying to look for the person amongst all of these people, and it just adds these extra layers. It's the same thing with combat, really, because we've spoken about this before. Just trying to make it as cinematic as possible, because Savage Worlds is all about cinematic stuff. And that's why I mentioned like leaping over to other vehicles and stuff. You can have a wagon chase in a fantasy game and things like this where people can do all of that type of stuff. You know, like Indiana Jones when he's hanging off of that truck door and things like this. It's like things like that. You can you make it really cinematic by emulating those tropes and those moments.
And just one thing to add to, don't always make critical fails in a chase as something mechanically goes wrong, because that pretty much determines how the chase is going to end. That car is dying, or the vehicle will eventually fail. A critical fail would be you spun around the corner, you've gone slow enough to hit an old lady, but she's not injured, but she's stuck on the car, on the bonnet, so she's now in the way of your windscreen and you can't see. Or you hit a truckload of chickens, and there's chickens that have jumped in the cabin and they're all bouncing around inside, which is creating a problem. So it doesn't always have to be the vehicle
kill
or
a Frenchman.
Yeah, the poutine lands in your face or whatever it is.
He explodes. It turns out his blood is actually gravy and cheese curds, and then it's all over the window. Okay, so
I like the chase rules, man. I reckon they're awesome.
Because they suck and are boring. But other than that, they're really good. Yeah, I agree. But anyway, we got an email in from Adam who comes in and he says, I've been thinking about the reaction table lately. I always skip this type of mechanic because it feels sort of like randomly generated dungeon, rather nonsensical. Am I missing out on something here? Does anyone use the reaction table? Is it cool? What are some interesting ways that it could be employed to make the story and or game better for my players?
I think you're missing something, Harrison. The fact that it's highlighted and Eric has said save it for another time.
All right, forget that. All right, so thanks to the email, Adam. We ain't answering it. Goodbye.
Well, you said earlier we got time for another question, Eric. And I said, yeah, one more.
Not 7.
Eric, come on. You can't expect me to listen to what you're saying.
We'll get you next time, Adam. Let's wrap this up.
My name's Harrison Hunt, and I do what I like. Right now, I ride a mother bike through the ball where I ain't supposed to do that. I'm from the podcast Tabletop Twats, and this is the wrap up, and it's gonna be sick. I'm right now, you can suck my dick, cause I don't give a shit what you think about my shit. So suck my mother big fucking dick. Yeah! What I'm trying to say is it's the mother wrap up, just like Mummy used to make.
Oops. All right, so here in the wrap-up segment, I'd like to say a big thank you to Jesus Christ.
I'd like to thank my parents for 40 some odd years ago getting it on, doing the nasty.
I'm very thankful for my therapist, who I'm seeing this week after this podcast.
I'm thankful for the fact that this show's almost over, but yeah, this was kind of an Easter. Yeah, I know, right? It was kind of an oddball episode here. There was some, like I said, some mail we needed to get back to, and then the review. But regardless, I hope you listeners enjoyed this show, that it was informative.
If you want to contact us, you can email us at thewilddie@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, all of that good stuff at The Wild Die Podcast. And, of course, we're on the Nerds International group on MeWe, so you can come and mingle with us, chat to us. You can get to know Paris. He posts nudes on there daily. And we've got Twitter, which is at The Wild Die. And Patreon, of course, please donate to the show. We work hard on this, despite the quality, how it sounds, and the things we say. So please donate. And that leaves one last thing, the Patreon jingle to thank all those who are in our exclusive club of donators.
Sean, Richard, Uncle Jairus, Perry, Chalmers, Alan Bray, Conrad, Erasmus, Neubert, Greg Booney, Corey Judd, Murder Hobo Show, Ray, Aristia, Rob, Tao, and Bubbles, Manuel Sams, Matt Stark, Pure Mongrel, Stephen Dragonspawn, Soggy's RPG, Max, Daryl Cossier, Frank Turfer Jr., Gil, Dash, Abu, and Strud, Jen Schoenheim, John Peterson, Carl Kiesler, Mr. Stag, Remy Bilodeau, Digital Dungeon Master, and Manuel Paps, Sid the Squid, Lance Shark, Scott Martin Davis, Patrick Greenhall.
Yeah, I mean, one thing people don't realize is the lawyer fees that we have to pay for all the things that we say on this podcast. It costs, so we need Patreon to cover for that.
Sorry, my cat just leaped up. All right, so let's go now, guys, because we've got a game at 3:00, and Gary's going to kill us with a mech.
All right, this is Eric saying, grab your sword by the balls.
And this is Harrison saying, grapple the skies.
And this is Paris saying, Harrison's wrong, the chase rules rock.
I'm not wrong.
Shots fired. This is Gary saying, keep your pants on, keep it fun. Thanks, everybody. We're finally out of here.
The Wild Eye Podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group or official Pinnacle licensees. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All music and artwork is used with permission of Pinnacle Entertainment Group. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Wild Eye Podcast.